Hello.
Hey, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm just like going flying through these. It's been a crazy morning so far.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you are like a big hit on TikTok. You know this, right?
I have heard. I tend not to do most social medias, but yes.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, let's get like the important stuff out of the way. So your new book, The Bones Beneath My Skin, what was the inspo behind this and what could readers expect? And I mean, I'm sure I'm going to see it all over Book Talk eventually. So what's going on?
Yeah, so The Bones Beneath My Skin was originally self-published in 2018. And then my big publisher Tor was like, hey, we want to publish this book too. And I said, okay, why not? Let's see what happens. But I wrote this, I originally had the idea for this book in 2015. And my idea at the time was to make it my own version of a very kind of tropey story, which was my version of like Stephen King's It or Boy's Life by Robert McCammon about a group of kids who come together to protect one of their own in a very adult novel kind of setting. What happened a year later, before I'd even started writing, a TV show called Stranger Things came out. And I was like, oh crap. Well, there goes that idea. So then I put that on the back burner. But for some reason, this idea would not get out of my head. And you have to understand, I grew up with films like Escape from Witch Mountain, E.T., Fire in the Sky, Close Encounters of the Third Time. I grew up with The X-Files, which is one of my all-time favorite TV shows, especially when you're a kid who doesn't normally see stuff like that. So after getting over the fact that Stranger Things ate my lunch when it came to that kind of story, I went back and I started thinking about not just the time that I wanted to set the book, but the period in which that time felt, the 90s. The 90s is a very weird time. We think about the 60s, 70s, 80s. We have an idea of what that looks like in our heads. The 90s is a little bit harder to pin down. But for me, the reason the 90s are so important is because at the beginning of the decade, nobody had cell phones or internet. At the very end of the decade, almost everybody did, for better or worse. So you could talk to people on the other side of the world, learn about their culture, learn about their life, learn about their history. But it also allowed conspiracy theorists to come together and put on their own little crazy spin on things. So I decided then to write this book, but instead of being about a group of children, about have it be about one child in particular, a little girl who calls herself Artemis Darth Vader. And the book itself is this thriller about a man named Nate who has lost everything, and he goes back to his family's cabin in the mountains to try to recoup, to try to refresh, and he expects it to be empty, but when he gets there, he realizes it's not because there is a man with a gun inside. His name is Alex, and he has a little girl with him whose relationship between them is unclear, but the little girl is very odd. She calls herself Artemis Darth Vader, and she is so much more than she appears. And so from there, that's where the story kicks off, and we get to follow these characters all the way through, following government officials, helicopter chases, explosions, evil cults, all of this kind of crazy stuff, all mashed into this love letter to the 90s.
Oh my God, all the good stuff, all the good stuff. So are you a big conspiracy theorist?
That is an amazing question. I love that question. No, not necessarily. You know, when I think of conspiracies, like if there's one conspiracy that I wish was true, it would be the one that says that climate change is a hoax. Could you imagine if that conspiracy came true? I'd be like,
Right.
hooray, we're all okay. But beyond that, no, I'm more fascinated by the psychology behind conspiracy theories because if you think about it, the psychology behind conspiracy theories isn't so different from the psychology behind cults because we think of the same thing. A cult is there's usually a charismatic leader who can change people's minds to fit his wants and his whims. And when you're looking at it from like a conspiracy, it's a like-minded people coming together thinking the same exact thing. They may not have like a leader, but in
Mhm.
essence, they are a cult in a way because they're all formed around this one kind of belief. So being able to write about that, the psychology behind it is fascinating because you always wonder, if you met somebody like a cult leader that you did not know was a cult leader,
Mhm.
would you fall for their trick? Would you fall for their spiel? Would you become under their spell because of how charismatic they are?
Well, it's funny. I watch a lot of documentaries. I watched the
Hmm.
one about the flat earthers,
Yes.
and I don't even really believe that the leaders believe it, first of all. But I think what it really is we all just want to belong somewhere.
Yes, exactly. And that is the psychology behind it because even if you don't necessarily believe, if you find people who have the same mindset as you do, that could feel profound. That could feel
Mhm.
explosive because not only are you surrounded by people who think like you do, they feed into your ideologies. It's a
Mhm.
feedback loop that
Yep.
keeps happening. You have the people there who keep telling each other, yes, this is real, even when there's doubt. So of course they're all going to come together like that. Exactly.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. So, okay, the house in the Cerulean Sea. This came out right around 2020 when the world was crazy. Talk about conspiracy theories. But how did that feel? Like, were you expecting that book to blow up like it did? Because I'm telling you, I am a TikTok girl, and people are still with their lists of books you have to read, and that
Mhm.
is still on every single list that comes out.
So The House in the Cerulean Sea came out on March 17th, 2020. And that
Oh
was the
God.
week the pandemic exploded in the United
Yep.
States. And I'll be honest, I thought that my book was going to get swallowed up by all the bluster and noise surrounding the pandemic. And the first few months it came out, it did okay. I mean, it released, but nobody was really paying attention to books then. But for some reason, more and more people kept reading it until 8 months after its debut, it landed on the New York Times bestseller list for the first time. But get this, the date that it did that was January 6th, 2021, the day of the Capitol insurrection in the United
Oh my
States. So
God.
imagine this book launching the week the pandemic explodes, and then it gets on the New York Times seller list for the first time on January 6th, 2021. I was like, am I cursed? What is this?
Or
But
historic.
right, but here's the thing. That book has meant so much to so many people, and I have been profoundly humbled. But I never expected that in any way, shape, or form. I never expected that book to have the reach it has. And I mean, look, it's a book about kindness and the Antichrist. And
Mhm.
I am so grateful that so many people love those characters as much as I do because, they're fictional, but they're so real to me.
hmm Well, I think that's the greatest part about reading is that I just get lost in the book and I feel like I'm a silent character in the book. And once
Hmm.
I finish, I want more. Like, I want to know, okay, what happens next? Like, what are they doing? Sometimes I find myself in this, I don't know what this says about me, but I find myself thinking, oh, I wonder what so and so is up to right now.
That's
And I'm
it.
like, they're not real.
When you close a book for the last time and you feel bereft, not necessarily just because of the story, but because you're leaving the characters behind, that means the author's done their job.
Yep.
Because even though these are fictional, we want them to feel real to you. Even books set in a fantastical setting, if I can't make my readers feel like you're walking with the characters, then I've failed at my job. That's exactly what I want. I want that cinematic feeling of you being right there with them, going through everything that they are.
You are amazing. I'm in love with you. I want you on my show again for
Oh, please,
sure.
will do for a
Oh my
longer
gosh.
time than
Oh,
this. Yeah.
please. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Where can people go for more information on your new book and you?
TJKluneBooks.com is my website, and my one remaining social media is Instagram, TJ Klune Books. So if you want to see pictures of my very beautiful dog, you should follow me
Oh,
on Instagram because he's very handsome.
I will. I will. Okay. And I'm going to message you because you need to come on and inspire us more. Okay.
Please do.
All
Absolutely.
right.
All right. Talk to
Bye.
you later. Bye.